Today we shall look at an important day in our American history. If you went to public school, you studied American history, and you should have some of these answers by heart, I would suppose. So let's start tonight with, what was the date of Paul Revere's ride? Commemorated in a poem by William Wadsworth Longfellow. And it goes something like this. Now listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere on the 18th of April in 75. Hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. And he said to his friend, if the British march, by land or by sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch, one of the North Church tower, as a signal light, one if by land and two if by sea. And I on the opposite shore will be, ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up and to be armed. Then he said good night, and with muffled oar, silently rowed to the Charleston shore, just as the moon rose above the bay, where the swinging wide on her moorings lay, the Somerset, the British man of war, a phantom ship, with each mast and spar across the moon like a prison bar, and a huge black hulk that was magnified by its own reflections on the incoming tide. Meanwhile, his friend, through alley and street, wanders and watches with eager ears, till in the silence around him he does hear the muster of men at the barracks door, the sound of arms and the tramp of feet, and the measured tread of the grenadiers marching down to their boats on the shore. Then he climbed o'er the tower of the old North Church by the wooden stairs, and stealthily tread to the belfry chamber overhead, and startled the pigeons from their perch on the somber rafters that round him made masses of moving shapes and shades. By the trembling ladder, steep and tall, to the highest window in the wall, where he passed to witness and to look down a moment on the roofs of the town. In the moonlight flowing over all, beneath, in the churchyard, lay the dead, in their nightly encampment on the hill, wrapped in silence, so deep and still, that he could hear, like a sentinel's tread, the watchful wind as it went, creeping along from tent to tent, and seemingly to whisper, all is well, a moment only he could feel. Of the place and the hour, and the secret and the dread, of the lonely belfry and of the dead, for suddenly all his thoughts are bent on a shadowy something far away, where the river widens to meet the bay, a line of black that bends and floats like a rising tide on a bridge of boats. Meanwhile, impatient to mount and ride, booted and spurred with a heavy stride, on the opposite shore walked Paul Revere. Now he patted his horse's side. Now he gazed in the landscape far and near, then impetuous stamped on the earth, and turned and lightened his saddle's girth. But mostly he watched with eager search the belfry tower of the old North Church, as it rose above the graves on the hill, lonely and spectral and somber and still. And lo, as he looks on the belfry's height, a glimmer, and then a gleam of light. He springs to his saddle, the bridle he turns. He lingers and gazes, till full on his sight, a single lamp in the belfry burns. A hurry of hoofs in a village street, a shape in the moonlight, a bulk in the dark, and beneath, from the pebbles, and passing a spark, struck out by the steed, flying fearless and fleet. And that was all. And yet, through the gloom and of the light, the fate of a nation was riding that night, and the spark that was struck, but that by his steed and his flight, kindred into the land the flame and the heat. He has left the village and mounted the steed, and beneath him, tranquil and broad and deep, is the mystic, meeting the ocean's tides, and under the alders that skirt the edge, now soft on the sand and loud on the ledge. He's heard on the tramp as he rides. It was 12 by the clock in the village clock when he crossed the bridge into Medford town. He heard the crowing of the cock. He heard the barking of the farmer's dog and felt the damp of the river's fog that rises after the sun goes down. It was one of the village clock's town. When they galloped into Lexington, he saw the gilded weathercock swim in the moonlight as he passed, and the meeting house windows, black and bare, gaze at him with a spectral stare, as if they already stood against at the bloody work that would have him look down. It was 2 by the village clock when he came to the bridge in Concord town. He heard the bleating of the flock and the twitter of birds among the trees, and he felt the breath of the morning breeze blowing softly across the meadow brown. And one was safe in his sleep, in his bed, but who by morning at the bridge he would be the first to fall, who on that day he would be lying dead, pierced by the British musket ball. Now you know the rest in the books you have read, how the British regulars fought and fled, how the farmers gave them ball for ball from behind each fence and farmyard wall, chasing redcoats down the lane, then crossing the field to return again, under the trees at the turn of the road, and only pausing to fire and load. And so through the night went Paul Revere, and so through the night went his cry of alarm to every Middlesex village and farm. It was a cry of defiance and not of fear. It was a voice in the darkness, a knock at the door, and a word that shall echo forevermore, for home! On this night wind of the past, through all of our history and up to the last, in the hour of darkness and peril and need, the people will awaken and listen to hear the hurrying hoofbeats of that steed and the midnight message of Paul Revere.